Hi, and welcome to another episode of Brainwave52, where in each episode we deep dive into a topic in a way that is short, sharp, and shares a bit of information. Today's episode is all about the Curio's development 5S innovation process. This is a process that combines aspects of innovation and design thinking and aims to be agnostic of what it is you're trying to innovate. So let's dig in. When people think about innovation, they typically think about creating a product or service that satisfies a consumer or market need. But what if we took things a step further and looked at the possibility of innovating something intangible, like a leader role or a new department in an organization? Let's follow the product and new department trajectories through the 5S process and see what happens. The first phase of the 5S process is scope. This is the contracting phase, and where we agree on two really important things. The first obvious one is the area of innovation. For a product, this means identifying what type of product it is and whether, for example, it addresses a new or existing market. For a new department, this might mean deciding whether it's part of another one or a completely standalone department and what some of its purview might look like. The second and most important thing we decide in the scope phase are the success thresholds and the exit and pivot points. These are the points throughout the rest of the process where if a project isn't meeting those success thresholds, you can either exit the project entirely or pivot to another trajectory that you might have come across earlier. It's important to note that the scope phase is the only entry point in this process because it's where you negotiate the thresholds that dictate those exit and pivot points. Once we're done with our contracting, it is time to head to the survey phase. This is the deep research phase and can include anything from ethnographic research to solo empathy mapping. For a product, this is where you would do your target market research. For a new department, this would be where you would talk to people whose needs and day-to-day link to that department, or research other organizations where such a department already exists. Once we're done with our contracting and have our research-backed data, we can then head into storm. The storm phase is the phase most associated with innovation. It's about pure divergent thinking, generating as many ideas as humanly possible, and then going beyond that to reach the unheard of and the far-fetched. The pool of ideas that you generate in this phase are what you can draw from in the sprint phase. The sprint phase is about working with agility, figuring out what your ideas mean in a way that is actionable, and experimenting with them and testing them out efficiently and at speed. For a product, this might mean developing a test version that you try out on your target market. For a new department, this might mean having someone dedicate a patch of their time to providing one or two of the services of that department and seeing how they're received and what the impact is after, say, a week. Sprints that don't meet the success thresholds have two options. You can either circle back to the storm phase and pull more ideas, or if you feel like you need to change trajectory more significantly, head back to the scope phase and reset your contracting. Sprints for a series of ideas that are successful, meet the thresholds, and look like they're viable to move forward with can head into the scale phase. For a product, this means creating a final, refined version and navigating your manufacturing and marketing processes to bring that product to your target audience en masse. For a new department, this means navigating your internal processes and operations and coming up with leadership competencies that will enable you to do your recruitment and transferring into that department. Now that we've gone through all 5 phases of the 5S process, let's rehash a couple of important things. The first is that after the scale process, you can always head back into the scope phase and continue on the cycle again to either refine or diversify what it is that you've innovated. The second is to remember that the scope phase represents the only entry point into the process, but all 5 phases represent potential exit and pivot points. Remembering that the scope phase is where you determine the thresholds that dictate where those points are. And because we're sharing short and sharp, that is all the time we have in this episode of Brainwave52. If you'd like to talk about bringing the 5S innovation process to your organization, reach out. Otherwise, stay tuned for our next episode where we get technical with systems thinking in innovation. Bye.